Good evening. Welcome back to the Cosmic Banter podcast. I'm your host, Steve, and I want to start by giving a little shout out. Now, I was joking on Christmas Day about doing shout outs. That was just a joke around it being Jesus' birthday. That was a special one. But as a one-off, I do want to give a wee shout out to a particular listener. Now, all I know about her is her name is Kayla. Don't know her last name, don't know what she looks like. But a little birdie told me, Kayla, that you really like goblins. Well, you enjoyed the goblin story told by Jordan in episode 6. Apparently you absolutely love it. Apparently you fall asleep to it every night. So I dedicate this one to you, and maybe just a little teaser. Maybe, just maybe, we may have another unrelated goblin story coming up later this season. Just maybe. I mean, yeah, we do. We have one. We have another goblin story. Okay, so that's for you. But I'll dedicate this one to you because, Kayla, if you're into goblins, I'm wondering whether I can get you into, I don't know, werewolves? Yeah, that's right. That's the topic of tonight's episode. I'll crack into it. Tonight, we're interviewing Elle from the UK, who had an encounter. Well, you can probably guess from the title and what I've already said, but I'm not going to say any more. Let's just jump into it. She had a crazy encounter, and it was a great conversation. So let's just jump straight into it. Before we do that, the last thing, I now have 2 donation links. If you'd like to hear better audio, I've got this little mic here, it's doing the trick. If you'd like better video and all that side of things, better sort of just, I don't know, headspace from your host, better mental health, because, money is tight, okay? Then you can donate via one of 2 means, or 2 of 2, you can do both. Okay, one is through cryptocurrency, completely anonymous. I won't even see your wallet address, okay? So I can't even snoop you on the blockchain. And there's over 300 different cryptocurrencies to choose from. And that's one option. And now finally, I also have the option of standard debit and credit card donations, okay? Now that's through a platform called Buy Me a Coffee, okay? Don't buy me a coffee. I don't need a coffee, I need money. I don't know why they called it that. It's a bit confusing. Buy me a money would be better. I can hear my dad already saying speed it up. He's not here, but he's been telling me to speed up these intros. Anyway, the links to both of those donation options are in the bio. Please check them out. Donations aren't expected, but are graciously welcomed. Does that sound good? Yeah, I want your money. Okay, let's crack straight into it. This is the Cosmic Banter podcast. I am your host, Steve, and tonight's episode is called, firstly, it is Season 1, Episode 11, and the name of tonight's episode is The Werewolf of Whyteleafe Park. As ever, remain curious, and when the phenomenon decides to reach you, I hope that you decide to reach out to Cosmic Banter. Enjoy. Peace. Okay, Elle, hey, welcome to the Cosmic Banter podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, I'm doing great this morning. Nice grey morning in England.
Is it? What a surprise.
What a
Yeah.
surprise. No surprise at all.
Because what are we in November? I'm in New Zealand. We're just heading into summer. Full moon,
Oh,
lovely
summer.
sun. Well, no, it's actually pretty abysmal weather this time of year. But yeah, can't imagine much worse than the UK in November. So what part of
Yeah.
what part of the UK are you from? Where are you based?
So currently now I'm based in London, but most of my life I've lived in Greater London outskirts. So I wouldn't really describe it as countryside, but more like the suburbs, I'd say mainly.
Say it again. So what was the name of the township?
So what the name of the town that I lived in.
Yeah.
So I lived in a town called Whyteleafe,
Uh-huh.
and it was outside of London, so it wasn't like busy city or anything. Just residential. Lived on like an A road, which is like one of those dual carriageways. And then behind us is just lots of forest, trees,
Mm.
fields, sheep, cows, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, sounds like a lovely place for a child to be brought up in.
It was, loved it. Best, fondest childhood memories there.
And so tell us a bit more about yourself before we crack into your story. What's happened since, like what age did you leave that town and you're now in London? Um, have you had any sort of experiences? We're going to obviously get to your main story soon, but yeah, what's your life been like leading up to the story you're about to share?
So I lived in that town up till the age of 18. And 9 years later, I feel like I've always kind of not been able to see weird things, but I've always like seen weird things or things that people might not describe as like of the physical realm of the physical earth or whatever. Um, since then, I would say it's been pretty tame. It's been pretty tame. I haven't had the crazy stories. I do have some, but not all of them I'll share. But other than that, I feel like life's been pretty tame. I'm just working, walking my dog. That's about it.
Well, it sounds similar to Jordan, who I interviewed. Well, she was the last guest that I interviewed. Won't necessarily release your episode immediately after hers, but yeah, she was very, just had a job and partner and a dog, and didn't really have any sort of crazy supernatural experiences. And then she had this encounter with a goblin. Now, I that was where I found you, wasn't it? Was in the comments section,
It
of
was,
depths of the comment section on her TikTok.
yeah.
And you, yeah, you mentioned that you'd had an encounter that intrigued me, and we got in touch, and I'd love to hear the story. Do you want to crack into it?
Absolutely. So this happened. So how old was I? I was in my teens. I remember. So I don't know if you guys have the same school system, but we have like in high school. It's like year 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have the same thing in New
Yeah,
Zealand?
we do.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think I was in year 7 actually. I would have been about maybe 13, 14. I think maybe 13 or 12 even. And anyway, so I remember it was an evening after school, and I was waiting for my sister and her friends because they were taking part in a school show, and it was one of their last big school shows. So it meant that they were staying after school, late evenings, and everyone was gone. Everyone had already gone home, and we'd be walking back home on our own. But luckily, there was a group of us. There was about 6 of us. It was me and then my sister's older friends. So I remember to walk home, we had to go through like this field. And once you get through the field, you walk through a forest and it's all downhill. And then once you cleared the forest, you go into like another open field section. And at the time, there was like really tall grass. So as we were younger, the grass was probably like waist length, maybe a bit higher. either side of us. So we're just walking through this desired path, and then either side of us, this whole field, acres and acres and acres big. It's just tall grass. You can't see much, but because we're on a hill, you can see the whole of the rest of the field. And coincidentally, the moon was right in front of us. It was really pretty evening. It was pouring down with rain. And because it's England, it was pitch black and it was autumn. So by 4, 5 o'clock, it's really pitch black and there's not much to see. And phones weren't the biggest thing there. So it's not like we were using torchlights or anything. We were just winging it on our own, having fun as kids. And the vibe was light. Everyone was just walking. We weren't thinking of anything scary. We weren't talking about anything scary. I was just kind of there as a younger sibling with my sister and her older friends. And then I remember there was me and one other girl. And whilst everyone's talking, we just happened to see something far in the distance. I'd say like maybe, how do I describe it in feet or meters? Or I don't know if I can describe it in meters, but it was pretty far away, really far away. To the point where if it was just a normal dog, the silhouette would have been really small. But for how far away it was and the silhouette we saw, it was really big, which didn't make sense. Anyway, so we just see something run across the field on the other side, where there isn't tall grass. And it's what I would just describe as an abnormally huge dog. And when I say huge, I'd say maybe like something that's about 8 foot plus. And it's running at a really fast speed. And it runs across. And me and the girl are both just watching it. Happens in maybe about 2 seconds. And as it's running, it stands up on 2 legs and then goes back down and then runs again. This all happens in the space of like 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds at most. And me and the girl watching, we're like, did you guys just see that? Did you just see that? And me and her were like, yeah, I saw that. And everyone else saw it. And I was like, no, what do you see? Oh, we just saw like this really big dog. It looked like a werewolf. Like it was so big and it stood up. And when it stood up, I just remember it being super, super tall. 8 feet at least, maybe. And physically big. Like, we're talking in terms of dog. Think of a Malamute times 3, because they're quite big dogs, aren't they? Times 3, times 4, even massive. Anyway, we ignore it because no one else saw it. We were just like, oh, whatever. We brushed it off. And then probably not even 2 minutes after that, as we're still walking down that same path, all of us hear to our left this deep and really loud demonic growl. And that's the only way I can describe it. It was demonic because all of us freaked out. And I'm going to mimic it. It might sound stupid, but this is somewhat.
No, go ahead. You have permission to, just give it a go.
I'll try.
Love to hear what it.
I'll try. It was like, oh no, it was even worse. It was like, but deep and really like dark.
Like
it was loud. And all of us. Yeah, like almost, like a lion is growling, or even an angry dog. I don't know. Like when your dog's growling when it sees something, it was like that, but more animalistic and more like it was demonic, really. And all of us heard it that time. And we all just looked to our left. There was nothing there. Obviously, it was just tall grass, but it was way too close for us to the point where we all just ran. We didn't say a word. We all just ran. And I'll never forget, my sister grabbed me because obviously she was trying to protect me. Instead, she made me fall into the mud. And I got straight back up and we just ran all the way back home. And from that point, our home was only like another 10 minutes away. But we ran the whole way, covered in mud, got home. And my mum was so confused. She was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you all scared and covered in mud? And what happened? We're like, and all of us are talking at once. Oh my God, we just saw. I'm not, it's like me and this other girl, like, we just saw something. They're like, we just heard something. My mum was just confused. She didn't get it. But I think the two corresponded because I've never seen something that big and stand up on 2 legs that looked like a dog, but I would describe it as a werewolf. Me and the girl described it as a werewolf. Never seen something that big. Considering how far it was, it shouldn't have been that big. At least 8 feet tall. And then I've never had such a deep demonic growl right next to us minutes after. I think the two correlated. And I can only describe it as experiencing or seeing a werewolf. If we didn't run, I don't know what would have happened. But I'm glad we did. Because I wasn't willing to wait around to see what it was. And the thing is, I always think with animals, if they're on their own, they're not ones to approach a group. Whereas they'd rather stay away to kind of protect themselves. Whereas I think if you're being stalked or watched by something that is potentially a predator, then they wouldn't have that fear of being that close up to you. Considering how close it was, I just don't think a dog or a fox or, I don't know, a wolf on its own would get that close to a group of people. So that's another reason why I just think whatever it was something that maybe is not known to a lot of people.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And that's actually a really interesting point you raised that, yeah, a lone animal, even if it was something as dangerous, say, as a wolf. I mean, even like bears. I know you don't have bears in the UK, but you know, even bears don't go out of their way to, you know, approach a group of humans, you know, unless it's fending off cubs or whatever. So that's
Yeah.
that's a really good sort of explanation as to why it couldn't have been something prosaic. But I mean, forget that for a second. It was 8 foot. Do you mean 8 foot when it was standing upright, or
Stood up at least 8 foot. When it was just running, probably the length of it might have been about, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot maybe?
like
It was
5
big.
foot high when it was on its
When it was running, yeah. The width of it
wow?
and the height of it was, yeah, it was eerie.
Oh man,
It was eerie.
I would eerie. Just hearing that eerie is not enough to describe what you've just explained. I mean,
No,
that was there
no, no.
was there an air? I mean, obviously before the growling next to you, which I find interesting that you described. You specifically used the word demonic. But get back to that. Was there like an air of sort of terror between you and this girl who'd seen that, even though it was only for 2 seconds? Or was it sort of, did it happen too fast for you guys to even sort of feel anything?
I remember in that moment, both of us were, it was like a confused moment. We were like, did you see that? Did you see that? Like what was that? But because there was a group of like everyone else, we kind of just like, wait, did you see that? And everyone else was like, no, no. So we were kind of just like, oh, like, and I remember I remember thinking about it like shortly after, but I literally just brushed it off. I wouldn't say I was like scared, also confused. I was like, what was that? That was not a dog or a fox or whatever. That wasn't. But because no one else saw it, I think it was easy to just brush off in that moment. We just thought, oh, whatever. Like maybe we just saw something. I don't know. We just saw something, but that's what it is, and that's what it's going to be left at until that growl after it's happened. Then we're like, yeah, it's time to run.
So did the other girls who hadn't seen it that first time when they heard that growl, was that, even though they hadn't seen anything, was that enough evidence for them to be like, yeah, that was
I
not.
think, yeah, it was. Holden, do you want me to shut my door quickly?
Yeah, all good, no dramas.
The vicar of South. Hang on. Okay. Shut it down. Sorry, Sam. Okay, so after that had happened, honestly, the whole time we were running back home, we weren't speaking, we were just running. So we fully didn't say a word to each other. All of us, there was about 6 of us. About 4 girls, 1 guy, I think. 4, 5, 6, and then we did the whole time we were just running, because we were genuinely scared. Like we were like something is out there, or like chasing, or something. We were just scared. We were like, we have to get out of there. It was until we got home that's when we started correlating, or like kind of putting the two together. We're like, yeah, me and Grace, that was a girl's name. We're like, oh, me and Grace saw something in the distance, and then we saw that. So we're kind of putting the pieces together. Like, oh my god, like what could that have been? Like, what was it? It was abnormal, you know. So I think it was after, once we'd heard that growl, there was a sense of like fear and like, oh my god, like maybe it was something that, like related to what they had seen. Like they said they saw this massive animal like in the distance stand up or whatever. So we did start putting the two pieces together, and it did kind of bring a sense of fear. It did.
Yeah, I bet. Did you girls like immediately start, or maybe I don't know how old you are, so maybe you couldn't just jump on your phones or laptops to Google, but did you do any sort of like research straight off the bat, like you know what I mean, like to try and work
No,
in the
absolutely
house?
nothing. Because I think about that. Yeah, when we had a desktop computer,
Yeah.
uh, it wasn't a thing where like technology wasn't really big then. So it wasn't a thing where like we would go home and start like researching anything, or it was just something that it happened and it stayed in our heads the rest of our time. Um, yeah, I'd never recall like researching it or finding out what it had been, and I think because maybe I was just younger as well, I didn't kind of look further into it. It was only until I maybe gotten like a few years older, so I tell people the story all the time. So it was probably just as I've gotten older, I was like, do you know what? Like, the only way I described that at that time was that it was a werewolf, um, and that it wasn't something that we're used to seeing as humans, or that belongs on this earth. Not saying that it doesn't, but
Mm.
I know it wasn't a thing that any of us, I don't think we ever researched it. It was just one of those stories, right? Some stories, like, it sounds a bit far-fetched, so it's not a thing you go bragging about or boasting about either. Like, you just kind of, it happens, and then if you're in a conversation where you're talking about things and that happens to pop up, then that's what it is. But it's not a thing where any of us kind of went around telling like, oh yeah, we saw like this thing, and like, because people just be like, oh, yeah, whatever, you're just kids, or you're just teenagers, you're just crazy, whatever. So it wasn't everything that we bragged about. But I feel like that field or that area of walking home, where we had to walk home to, was always a bit weird. Like there was always weird stuff happening there. I remember one time, and it's only happened 1 year, and it was in October, and the council, or the government or whatever, they put up a sign at that park. I think they've done it for scare element as well, but they actually put up a sign saying like, ghost sightings have been seen in this park. And I never researched the history of that park actually, so maybe I would one day. But I remember me and my family went there to do ghost hunting or whatever. But so there have been like some things sighted in that park, and I remember me and one other girl have seen something else in that park, which was it's really weird as well. Um, so I don't think it's too far fetched like what we'd seen, but I just think for the scale of that park and field, which it was a really big place, but at the end of the day, we're still in England, for something that big to be somewhere there. I'm like, where does it live? Like, where does it hide? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The kind of
Yeah,
stuff
that's yeah, that's another fascinating element to all of this, is all these sort of cryptid creatures you physically saw it, you physically heard it. Others have described, a smell or there's a physical presence, and yet it's so large. How the hell does it keep hidden? What does it feed on? Where does it live? I mean, are there others? It's crazy to think about. What do you think it is? Do you think it is a nuts and bolts physical creature, like that is in, the normal realms of science and zoology that hasn't been discovered? Or do you think that it is something supernatural that can appear in our physical realm as well?
Honestly, I think, or I believe that I personally think of something supernatural. And again, I think it just goes back to, or do you know what? Maybe it is something that has just never been discovered, because there's that whole thing right now about like aliens, like coming onto this earth and stuff, which I do wholeheartedly believe in. But I don't know why the CIA and FBI, whatever, are trying to cover it. Like, obviously, there's other stuff out there that we don't know about. We don't know about everything as humans. We don't, and we don't have to. But like, I think it's kind of that same idea that there are other things that live out there on this earth, but we just don't know about it. And as humans, we don't have to know everything, But, and I think the way some of us just happen to describe those things are as supernatural because we don't know what they are. So just because, like, I might describe it as a werewolf, which I would say falls into like supernatural and all that stuff, that's not to say that it is a physical thing that hasn't actually been discovered by us humans, and it does actually reside on this earth, and we just haven't discovered it, kind of thing. Like all these kind of other myths and stuff that people say, like Loch Ness and I don't know, like Dogman, all of that stuff. Like, what's to say that those creatures don't just exist on this earth, but we just don't know the answers to them? The same way, like, they've discovered aliens and stuff. Like, it might not be that it's a supernatural thing. They're physical things that exist outside of this earth, but they found a way to visit us, but we just don't know about it. So we describe it as supernatural. So maybe they have a right on this earth just as we do. But I don't know. I think the supernatural element probably comes into the fact that it was on its own and definitely targeting us as a group. Like I was saying before, like any other animal that we kind of know, even a predatory animal, on its own, it wouldn't target or go that close to a group and make itself known. It wouldn't make itself known like that, I don't think, as well.
Yeah, it's a great point that I guess supernatural is a label that we impose on these things that we don't understand, that modern science, current science can't adequately describe.
Yeah.
But even if we got to that point where we could describe it and there was a measurable way of saying, oh, well, it keeps itself hidden because it has this ability, and that ability happens to be, I don't know, being able to slip into another dimension. And we get to that point in science where that's just, fully accepted. And so we remove the supernatural label. It's still the same thing, though. It's still incredible. And yeah, I just want to, before we lose this, even though it was such a brief sighting, you said it was like 2 seconds. Within 2 seconds, you saw it run and stand on its hind legs and then back to running on all fours. I know the lighting was perhaps, not great. You described it as a silhouette. Can we really hone in on the description a bit more, if possible? So you say that, I mean, it was quite clear that it was huge. It was 4 or 5 foot off the ground when it was running. It was 8 foot when it was standing on its hind legs. So you've described it as a werewolf. What?
I would describe it as, yeah, I described it as a werewolf purely because of its size, and it definitely looked like it was, or potentially could have been, a dog, because I remember when it stood up, like, obviously it was on its hind legs, and then I could see two front legs, whatever, as it stood up. And the silhouette just looked like a wolf, or like not really a dog, a wolf.
So there was a snout.
A snout, yeah, and a tail as well, like a Malamute times three or four, literally. Um, but the speed of it as well was really fast, because we watched it literally from one end to the field, and this is how quick it went. We were literally like, and then it was gone. It was back into the grass, and then by the time it was back into the grass, up to where we were, I remember, considering how far it was, that happened in the space of like 2 minutes, and then it was right next to us with that growl. Never saw it again. Never heard anything again. Just that one encounter, and that was that. I describe it as a werewolf because I don't know anything else that's 8 foot tall when it stands up. A type of wolf or dog.
Yeah. Nor do I. And I just had to quickly Google Malamute dog just to refresh my memory of what they look like. Now, it's obviously the striking feature is it's quite a large face, a large head. So is that what sort of led you to compare it to a Malamute? Is it?
I'm just a dog person. So whenever if I see something and I'm like, it was big like and I'm like, it was big like a Malamute. It was small like a Chihuahua. I'm just such a dog person. So I'm just like,
gotcha.
The biggest animal I can think of, kind of remotely, that we have in the UK. We don't really have Malamutes in the UK, but I would describe it as a Malamute. I don't know if we've got wolves in the UK. Maybe we do.
Yeah, I was just trying to think. My initial thoughts would be that you don't, or maybe you once did in UK. But the wolf is
Scotland, maybe.
yeah. Grey wolves do not currently live in the United Kingdom. Wolves became extinct in the UK around 1743 due to a combination of factors, deforestation, hunting, blah blah blah. So yeah. And I mean, look, even if you had wolves, I mean, these stories are prominent throughout North America where they have wolves, and all of the stories that I've heard from those American experiencers, they say that there's no question in their mind. It was yeah, I mean, it was the shape of a wolf. It was wolf-like, but
Yeah.
wolves aren't 8 foot.
That's the thing, and that's why I'm just like, the supernatural part was a werewolf. That's what you see in like the books and stuff, or you read in books, like werewolves are these big things, and they can stand on like 2 legs, and I don't know. It's just, I always think about Harry Potter when I think of those stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Sirius Black.
Yeah, that's it. Sirius Black. Yeah, that's it. That's what it. It's a werewolf. There you go. That's what it was like. Twilight ones as well.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Twilight. I must be the only person on earth who hasn't. Hey, I am a guy, so maybe be even weirder if I was a girl and hadn't seen Twilight. But so I can't picture what the werewolves in Twilight look like. But yeah, Sirius Black.
Sirius Black, that's it.
So, but was it too like, was the lighting too poor for you to make out the color of its hair?
Oh no, yeah. It was too dark. It was way too dark. But the moon shone perfectly to the point where you could just see the whole thing in front of us happen. Like, you could see that silhouette perfectly. All I just remember was it was just black, just the silhouette. and that's purely it. And it was definitely like a fairy sort of animal.
If
Yeah,
I
but
if
it
I shared my
really was like
screen,
the perfect silhouette. Yeah,
sorry, I interrupted.
that's right.
What were you saying? Sorry.
So I was just saying, but that mean cast like makes perfect silhouette where like it's almost like you just shine a torchlight and put your hand in front and you can see the shadow perfectly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just going to suggest if I shared my screen just for the benefit of those watching. I mean, I'm just literally Google imaging this. If I search werewolf and dogman, uh, would it be if we scrolled through? Would you, from your memory of that sighting, be able to sort of pick out? Yeah, it kind of looked like that.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
can we do that? Because
absolutely.
obviously you didn't have quite um quite enough time to get a full view and full description where you could maybe draw it or whatever, but maybe this is the closest that we could get. And I think because whenever I hear these stories, I'm sort of picturing it, but it's limited to, you know,
Yeah.
the information that you're giving. And obviously it was only a 2-second interaction. Um, so let's do that. I'm just going to, sorry, set that up first.
Yeah.
While doing that, can you speak more to um, like the description of its growl being demonic? Why
Okay.
do you say it was demonic?
The only reason why I say it was demonic was because I'm a huge animal lover. I love every single animal. I'm not scared of animals at all. If I heard a wolf or a dog or whatever growl, I wouldn't be terrified. And I don't think anyone else would probably be terrified. And I think the reason I call it demonic as well is because it was so deep. And it was like guttural. It was like really like I can't do it right now. But it was really like guttural and it, I don't know how if this is like far fetched, but it was almost like a growl as if like something's been watching us or like it's ready to like either attack or like letting us know we better get out of there kind of thing. Like it was like a warning growl, like we need to we need to leave kind of thing. Um I think because all of us got so scared when we heard that, that's probably another reason why I'm just saying it was just demonic. It was demonic. It just didn't sound it didn't sound like anything that I've heard before or heard up till now. Um, Even when hearing like different animals growl and stuff, it didn't compare. Nothing else really compares to it.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's I think that's pretty telling as well. As you've said, you're a dog lover. You're obsessed with dogs. You know what they sound like when they're scared or when they're angry or trying to defend themselves. So like if you can think back to either a dog you've owned or like witnessing a dog that's really scared, really, really wound up and is sort of giving that defensive growl, and think back to the time where that was sort of the scariest, most sort of off-putting growl. How many orders of magnitude deeper and scarier and more threatening was it than that?
Uh, I'm thinking of my dog when she growls, when she sees an animal outside and she starts growling. It's a deep growl. But this one, I'd say, in terms of decibels as well, just the loudness of it was probably like 6, 7 times more deeper. And in terms of the like deepness of the growl, was probably like 10 times, 10 times more. It was very like, it was, when I say it was like really like from a film kind of thing. It was really like hunting kind of, yeah, that's how I describe it. It was like a hunting kind of ground, like stalking, like we've been watched, something's been watching us.
How
was really
close?
close as well.
So
So
it was really close.
when I say really close, like, so we're walking through this desire path, which fits maybe three of us in terms of width. So we're kind of like crowded in a bunch. And then either side of us, literally like less than half a foot either side of us, there's tall grass that is like taller than waist length. And the growl was probably a meter away from us. It was literally very close. A meter away, I'd say. It was, yeah, it was right next to us, basically. It was right next to us. That's why we all legged it. We're just like, yeah, we're out of here. my, my sister was scared because she grabbed me. When she grabbed, the second she just grabbed me, we were all gone. All of us were gone. We didn't look back, nothing.
Oh,
But
good
yeah,
on.
it was a meter away from us, at least.
I'm glad you did run because you survived to tell. Again, selfishly, I'm glad that you survived because you've got to share an interesting story on my podcast. But I'm happy that you guys got away because it sounds like if it wanted to, you
It
were.
could, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, whatever it was. And again, back on the fact that a lone animal would not go up to a group of people. It just wouldn't. So whatever it was, knows its strength and power, that it could overpower a group of teenagers or whatever. So that's the other point. That's like, what animals out there could do that live in England? You know, and not many come to mind.
No. Did you say as well that you were surprised at how quickly it had come up to do that growl from where you saw it?
Yeah, because the speed that it ran was literally like watching it gone. And then 100 seconds later, growl, and then we were gone. Like, that whole encounter happened in the space of like 3 minutes at most, tops.
So no, I know you said you sort of struggled to, describe how far away it was, but I don't know, like
I'd say like, I felt like in meters, or I really couldn't describe in meters.
yeah.
We were at one part of the field where we just come out of the forest basically, and then just imagine like the second part, maybe like, maybe over an acre away, maybe about an acre away, or 3/4 of an acre away, I'd say.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah. I'm trying to think in terms of like football fields.
No, because that's fair enough. If you sort of think by acres, that gives us an impression. So if it was a square acre, the other side of that square.
The other side of that acre, maybe just a bit before that. In terms of like, I'm thinking of a football field, like the length of it.
Because an acre is 4,046 square meters. So I suppose that's I'm not going to expose my abysmal mathematical skills, which a 7-year-old could probably describe better. But yeah, okay. So that for anyone listening and watching, that can give them an idea of how far away it was. Okay. Yeah. And did this occur in your hometown, the town you described at the start where you grew up in?
Yeah, so this happened in Whyteleafe, good old Whyteleafe, and we lived in a small, it was a small town, like residential, huge fields, forests. Yeah.
I want to bring this up if that's okay.
It was completely rural. Yeah, of course, yeah.
What was Did the park have a name? Like if I Googled it?
Yeah, I think it was just called Whyteleafe Park, and it's spelled Whyteleafe as in Whyte, and then leaf. Um, leaf with an E at the end.
Yeah.
Whyteleafe
Okay.
Park. And the thing is, well, right now it looks completely different now. But
Mm, mm.
back then, I remember I think it's still there. There's a children's park there. Like I said, it's not a completely rural park or anything. Like surrounding the park, there's houses. Like where we're heading, there's the main road. Like it's not like we were in the middle of like vast just trees and acres of just like no, like that's the thing. It it wasn't complete. We're in the suburbs, you know. So again, it's
Yeah.
like where did this thing come from?
During the break, we did a bit of research on Google Maps, and we've found. So you can still see what I'm sharing, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, this is how do I pronounce it? Whyteleafe
Whiteleaf.
Park.
Yeah, Whiteleaf Park.
And is Whyteleafe, sorry, the name of the village or township again?
Yeah. So Whiteleaf's the name of the town, and that was one of our parks there. Fields.
Now, I'm navigating this on your behalf, but we've worked out where you were. So this forest here, where my cursor
Yeah.
is, you and your friends were walking through this forest. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So we've walked through that forest and we've come out of the trees and come down those steps. As we come, you can't really see the steps there, but there are some very shallow steps. As we come down those steps, we're actually turning to the right to get home. So we're not going
Totally.
straight down, we're turning to the right. And we're
Yep.
somewhat around this sort of area.
So
And
this
because we're on
tree
a hill,
here, maybe sort of near, still up on the
yeah,
hill.
probably still up on the hill, like trees to the right of us, probably behind us. I can't quite remember. But
So you
a
might have
lot of
been.
this all used to be, yeah, about there. Used
Okay.
to be all tall grass as well, all of this area. Um,
Hmm.
and so we've got a perfect view of the park opposite us and the moon, full moon, right opposite us as well. So it casts like this beautiful light, and you could see whatever, if anything ran across there, we had the perfect vision of it. And probably saw this wolf thing past those trees, more to the right around that area. And
So,
distance
so
wise, you can tell what I mean by how far away it was.
yeah.
But that silhouette we saw was perfect. Like perfect uh description of what I would call like a werewolf, considering how far we were and
We've
where the wolf
established
was.
where you were, and your perspective is that you're looking where my cursor is, sort of down this way.
Yeah, past that. Yeah, that's it. Like past those sort of trees. Yeah,
Yeah.
on
So
that part of the field.
the trees aren't obstructing your view. You're actually to the
No,
right
yeah,
of them, and you're looking straight down here. Now, this house here gives a bit of perspective. So see where
yeah.
this tree line is here with these three trees and that house. So from here to that house, where in this part of the field do you think the dogman was?
Probably if you move your cursor past the trees a bit further, maybe around there. Yeah,
Mm,
and it just ran straight across, straight past those trees, and
like
then
this way?
that's it. Yeah, and then again, because it used to be tall grass. Actually, that part wasn't tall grass, but it ran into tall grass and then just disappeared. And then
So
so it made its way up to that.
was this side tall grass?
So all of that bit wasn't tall grass, but I remember up to say mm, maybe just before the footpath, maybe. I don't know if you can see there's a footpath
This footpath?
going across. Yeah, not is that? maybe a bit before that, slightly before. But anyway, that kind of area, all tall grass, and it just ran to the left, and it was gone out of our sight, so we couldn't see it anymore. And maybe it was actually running. Maybe that was it running towards us, actually.
So I've now
'Cause it
zoomed
ran.
right out, and now I'm not even at the point where I can't get here. We've tried, but
Yeah.
this is however many, I don't know, 100 meters away in itself. So you're sort of up here, or maybe up here, and then if we look all the way down here, and we've established that it was closer to that house in the field. It was
Yeah.
the end of the field. That's
But
quite a long way away.
that's a long way away for us to have been able to see such a silhouette and to be able to say, oh yeah, that was like a dog, it looked like a wolf, or it was the outline of like a wolf or something. That's why I just can't explain it. Like, or maybe that's why it is supernatural, because it just doesn't physically. There's just
And
not creatures.
within roughly 2 minutes, it was up like a meter away from
Right
you,
next to us. Yeah,
right
right
next to you,
next to us.
growling.
Literally right next to us. Yeah.
Holy shit.
I know.
I'm glad we did this. Oh, and sorry for anyone who's just listening, who's out on a walk, but I'd encourage you to go back either on Spotify or YouTube and just have a look at the video portion of this part of the episode, because this really gives some perspective. Yeah, I'm glad we did that, because that's now really explained to me that the fact that it would be, even if it was completely short grass at night, and there was some moonlight, and you had wolves in the UK, let's just say all that. If there was a wolf all the way down here at night, and you were all the way back up here, that would be a good spot.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I see something moving over there.
Yeah.
Is that a wolf? It's like, so the fact that you very clearly saw this silhouette, and so you reckon 8 foot? Yeah, it must have been at least.
Definitely about that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is there anything else before I stop sharing my screen that you want to sort of describe about the area, or?
Not really, but just imagine all of this was just full grass. So
Yeah.
whatever had run through all this area to get kind of next to us, I don't know where it ran through. And do you know what? I think about it now, and we didn't hear anything running through the grass. That's another thing, because it was just us in that park. Yeah, we were chatting and stuff, but our surroundings were quiet because we're in the middle of this field. But if there was an animal running through the grass, we would have heard it before it growled at us as well. That's another thing that I've just thought of. But we didn't hear anything, and suddenly there's just a deep growl moments after that. So that's another thing I've not really thought of. But it's not like we heard its tracks or heard something running towards us. It was just that, and then bam, and then done. We were out. So yeah, that's.
Can you see the other tab I've just opened up, or is it just this one tab?
I can see. Yeah, I can see Google up there.
Yeah. If I switch to this tab on Google, can you see that?
Yeah.
So I just thought I'd type in Whyteleafe werewolf to see if there's anything else. Have you done this? Have you?
Never. No, actually, I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, people can maybe do their own research. It would just be curious, because the reason I am curious about that is when you described it being so deep into the field that it was sort of around here, which is awfully close to this row of houses.
Yeah.
Like if it was in this
And
area, if
that's
it was like lurking and it's well hidden or whatever, but it's around this area. I wonder if any of these residents have seen something odd and they, like you and your friends, have kind of chosen not to speak about it because no one would
maybe,
believe them.
yeah. Yeah. I think back then, actually, I don't think those houses had been developed.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember they're fairly new, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was the nearest houses? What about these ones?
So all those were there, yeah. All those were there.
Yeah, that's still too close for comfort.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
especially given how fast it could run based on what you've described.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Um,
Good.
now I sort of titled this invite, this Zoom invite to you as Elle's Dogman encounter because and I haven't mentioned that term yet because I don't want to put words in your mouth because what you described is seeing a werewolf and that's what makes sense. That's the best thing you can describe it to. Have you heard the term dogman? And do you know what
Oh,
that is? Have you heard stories?
I have. If I'm not mistaken, is Dogman something that people see as like half human, half sort of like wolf dog, like, or is it just purely like a massive kind of like werewolf kind of entity, or something along those lines?
Well, it's actually great that I got you to describe all of that first because I've listened to a number of podcast episodes of Dogman Encounters, and a lot of what you described from your very brief sighting is exactly what people in mostly North America refer to as the Dogman. They all say
Interesting.
it's 8 to 9 feet tall. They all say that it can, scatter on, run on four legs like a dog, but that it's more often actually seen standing upright on its hind legs. Um, whether there's different variations, different breeds, like we have with, normal dogs, I don't know. And I think perhaps if this creature is something that's seen around the world, it would make sense that, different cultures, different parts of the world have different names for it. And
Yeah.
and yeah, maybe some people and I don't know where the term werewolf came from. I have a feeling it probably was a European term.
Yeah.
Um, but in America, and I've mentioned this before on this podcast. There's a fantastic podcast called the Dogman Encounters Radio. I've actually linked it on my Spotify as like a favorite podcast, so you can go and listen to that. There's 550 odd episodes of people like sharing their their encounters with a dogman that is 8, 9 foot tall, that can stand on its hind legs like you've described. And the people that have come closer to it and can describe it more in detail often say it has glowing yellow eyes. Some people have even described an element of telepathy, like it can somewhat communicate, which again feeds into that whole supernatural
Yeah.
thing,
Have,
right?
have they described like sounds as well, not hearing anything?
Yep, exactly what you've described.
Yeah.
Deep, and I'm glad you used the word guttural. That
Yeah.
that comes up a lot. A deep guttural sound, and yeah, just the fact the way you described it as demonic. Um, everyone that I've heard who's encountered this so-called dogman creature, they say that there's just this eerie, malevolent vibe. Like it's not good.
Like, you have
And
to get out. You have to leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they all say, I mean, I haven't heard of any reports of dogmen killing people, but I
Yeah.
guess if they had, they wouldn't be here to share their stories. But everyone who does share these stories says that there was this sort of feeling that it was letting them know that if it wanted to, it could
It,
it could do something. Did you feel that?
with the growl, yeah. That
Yeah.
all I can say is that growl was literally, it was like, get out of there. And for all of us it was. We didn't have to say anything, we just heard it and we all ran. And that was just like an unspoken rule at the time. We just ran as soon as we heard it. Like, yeah. So I think, yeah, maybe it was that kind of sense that it's like, yeah, that growl means that's your kind of chance to get out of there. Or maybe they don't, maybe those things don't want to be seen, you know? So maybe that's its way of like communicating to people, like, just leave.
Yeah.
Because I've heard stories as well, and most people who encounter like kind of, because I've heard like similar stories of like werewolves and all that kind of stuff, and most
Mm.
people do just leave once they encounter it. So I know it manages to instill this sort of fear in people, which
But what it's so
I don't
interesting.
really stay.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's kind of interesting that it it instills this fear and people get the sense of, oh, look, it was ready to, it could have ripped me to shreds immediately if it wanted to. It was made it very clear that, it was the alpha thing. But it's kind of interesting that in all these encounters, all these stories, that the dogman allows people to leave, to flee. So it's somewhat restraining
Yeah,
itself, or maybe
yeah,
it's not inherently out there to hurt us. But then why would that? Uh, how could how would you describe? How would you explain that growl and that sort of that sense of fear that it instills in
yeah.
people if it's not somewhat evil, or I don't know.
That's the thing. It's just like the whole thing's a big mystery. It's like, if it could, I'm sure, if it wanted to, I'm sure it could attack people. But then there haven't been any. There've just been encounters with it. But
Yes,
everyone has lived to tell these weird encounters. Like,
yes,
so I don't understand what what it is. I just don't. No one understands. It's weird. It's just these little
yeah,
brief encounters people have, and then that's it. You just sometimes like, I probably not ever see anything like that ever again.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
So I don't know.
would you?
Maybe it
That's an
feeds off
interesting point.
other animals.
Elle, would you like to, like, out of sheer curiosity, if you knew that it wasn't going to attack you, like you somehow knew that you weren't going to die, would you vote for that? Like, yep, I want to see that dog man again and get a closer look.
100%. Like, I feel like there's so much in this earth, on this earth, that we just don't know about. And if you know that something's not going to attack you, well, of course, like, everyone should want to see what's out there.
Okay, let's strip it back and say there's no guarantee, but all you've got to go by is the experience that you had where it didn't attack you, but it was terrifying. Would you take that chance and go back to that park if you knew that you could see it again, but there was no guarantees whether it would attack you or not?
I think I'm the kind of person where curiosity gets the best of me. So if I knew, like, oh my God, yeah, I could go there and see it again and just confirm what I've seen, yeah, I would. And again, it's the fact that, like, no one's really been hurt by these things. So is it just like, is it a supernatural thing that just shows itself to certain people, and then like it just goes, like, maybe.
Well, you're braver than most. Most people say, I never want to see that thing again. But I guess you didn't. Well, it was very close. You heard its growl. I wonder whether that would be a different story if you actually physically saw it up close and looked it in the eye. But I love you. I love your curiosity. Hey, before we wrap up, I want to just share my screen again, and this is just Google image of Dogman, the Dogman, right? Which was initially known as the Michigan Dogman. That was the legend because it was a lot around the state of Michigan. And then, as it turned out, as more and more people shared their stories, it just has become known as the Dogman in North America. If I just scroll through, do any of these sort
The
of
first row, the very first row, 1, 2, 3, 4. The sixth one, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? This one,
Yeah,
not this one.
the one next to it.
This one.
Yeah. Let me see that. Slightly different. Maybe the one before it.
I mean, these are not obviously real photos, but it's just someone's rendition. But it'll be interesting to get something as close as possible to what you saw. So let's have a look at this one.
Possibly, yeah, something like that. But stood up. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to imagine it on all fours as well.
Yeah.
Almost like a dog or a wolf or something.
Yeah, because I don't want to. I know that you didn't get close enough to make out its eyes or, the size of its teeth or anything. But is it this sort of shape?
Absolutely. And it's
Okay.
furry. Big, just huge and furry. Like that I can just, vouch for. Huge furry, like sort of werewolf.
Well, that's really helpful to know.
Serious black.
Yeah.
Serious black werewolf. That's it.
Yeah. That's really helpful to know that even if you couldn't make out the finer details, that silhouette, imagine a silhouette of that, because it's in the dark, is what you saw. And what everyone else describes with the Dogman or werewolf, whatever you want to call these things, is that their arms, I guess you call them arms because it's kind of humanoid, right? When it's standing up, they look like arms, are really long, like it is in this photo here. So
Yeah.
did you get that impression too, that it had?
So when it stood up, because it was like from the side, it was almost like okay, not really a horse, but you know when a horse is galloping and it stands up and its arms are like, or its legs, its legs are like, how do you explain it? Do you know what I'm trying to say? You know when a horse stands up and it gallops and you capture that image of it? Yeah, that, like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, it's kind of like the bent.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Like that.
Okay, so they weren't dragging, looping down like it is in this photo.
No.
But I guess it was half like it was coming up off running on all fours to standing up and then back down again. So,
and then back down.
Yeah.
Straight back down.
So at no point was it sort of stopped standing upright fully the whole time.
It was like run, like a horse standing up from a gallop or whatever it is, and then straight back down, and then off into the distance.
My God. And hopefully this is not too boring for people who are just listening, but I do encourage you to...
Sirius Black. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I'm just going to search Sirius Black, Harry Potter.
Werewolf.
No, I mean, most people have seen Harry Potter, but let's just ring a bell. Oh, yeah, as, of course, because he's human as well. So as when he's a werewolf.
Animagus. Is he an Animagus? Is Animagus or something?
What's that? Is that the term for
I think that's when they can turn into animals. I don't know if it's anime guy. I don't know.
Oh, it's like a morpher. Oh God, people are
That's
probably
a word, isn't it?
yeah. I know what you mean though. Where it turns. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, I said warehouse. Sirius Black Werewolf. Let's have a look. Okay. So,
Yeah, that's it. It was like
wow.
that. It was like that.
Now that's all fours. Let's find one
On kind of hind.
on its hind legs. Was there a scene where
I
Sirius
think
Black
it was
was? Yeah, he was fighting the other werewolf.
yeah, like kind of like yeah, kind of yeah. If that's the closest I can
Hmm.
somewhat describe it.
I guess we're sort of delving into the territory of speculation here because you
Yeah,
didn't get close enough, and
yeah,
it was only a couple of seconds. But anyway, that does give a it paints a picture, and I think that's helpful. So I'm glad we did that.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Hey, before I really appreciate your time, Elle. This has been great. Now, I just wanted to ask as well. Did I hear you right at the start when you were sort of introducing yourself, um, talk about the fact that you'd had one or two sort of supernatural or spiritual things growing up?
Yeah. I think throughout my childhood, my family's childhood, my sister's childhood, and my parents' childhood, we've always lived in houses that have just had really weird like pasts or histories, and there's always been like I believe in ghosts and spirits and stuff. There's always been like spirits and ghosts in our houses. Um, so yeah, growing up, it was a thing. But I think it was just so normal to us at the time. It was I wouldn't say anything super crazy. Crazy stuff did happen, but nothing like poltergeist sort of level. But yeah, growing up, we did have supernatural experiences. We've always had kind of those kind of experiences, and my mum's always been someone who's been able to kind of, I wouldn't say see ghosts, but she's had her experiences as well, and yeah,
It's pretty common, isn't it? Like you sort of scratch beneath the surface and it's like, oh yeah, my auntie's saw this, or everyone's got a
yeah,
story, even if you or your friends haven't seen anything yourself. Everyone knows of like a friend of a friend or a family member who saw something or experienced something crazy, and we
yeah,
kind of accept it as like, oh, it might be real, probably isn't, whatever, doesn't change
yeah.
my day to day. I have to pay the bills, or it's a
That's the
fun
thing. Yeah,
but I feel like how like, it just I find it really curious how many people are out there that have had these experiences, and it's not, of course it's not reported in a local newspaper because they don't they want to uphold their reputation. I mean, obviously you mentioned you've sort of told this story to your friends and stuff, and they may have told that story to some of their friends. But it just sort of becomes a thing that, at a party, at the pub, you might share this story, friend of a
yeah.
friend saw this, and it's kind of like, oh really, wow.
That's
But
it.
no one's gonna like believe it, like no one's gonna
Yeah,
be
it's not.
fascinated unless they saw it themselves, right?
That's it. It's not the same. It just isn't. It just isn't.
What would you say, Al, as a final question, to anyone else, either in the UK who's seen a werewolf or dogman, or just, I guess, anywhere else in the world that has seen something strange, some cryptid creature, something supernatural, and sort of feels like they have no one to share this with, or that they're alone in experiencing this? What would you say to anyone listening?
Um, I would say, do you know what? Now on the internet, there's such a big community of people who have seen these things and people who are willing to talk about it. Like as we are on this podcast, like sometimes experiencing these things can make you think like, oh, am I exaggerating, or like, did I really see that, or like, da da da. Especially if it's a thing that only you've seen. For me, I'm a bit luckier because there were people and a group of us who'd seen it and heard this thing. But I think for people who have experienced these things, they might feel a bit like stuck in their head. You know what? The internet is actually a great place to share these stories because there's going to be someone out there who believes you and who wants to talk about it, and who wants to ask the questions. There's someone who might be able to relate to it as well. So start there.
Well, I mean, it's a great example. I found you in the comment section of Jordan's video about the goblin, and I interviewed her. She's been on a few podcasts now. That story went, not full-blown viral, I suppose, in the world of TikTok, but semi-viral. And if you just look at the comment section, I was just reading it back before joining this interview with you, trying to find your comment. I couldn't find it, but I was amazed at the number of people that had been like, I've seen this too. I thought I was alone. And that's just about a goblin. Oh yeah, I've seen this. I'm in Mexico. It's called a duendes. And then, if you look up any videos of people talking about werewolves or dogmen, same thing. People in the comments section, maybe some of them are lying, maybe some of them are trying to get a bit of attention, sure, 10% of them. But, there's so many people saying, oh my God, I wouldn't believe what you're saying right now unless I had seen the same thing, and I have. And I just see this over and over and over again. I think these people aren't telling the world. News stations and online, articles and stuff aren't picking it up. And yet it is becoming more sort of safe and acceptable, isn't it, through these forums, through these podcasts to share.
Yeah. And I think the algorithm finds the right people because obviously I feel like the amount of people in the world and a percentage who've seen us is probably something like 5%. But when you're in that community, it feels like a lot of us kind of like, oh, we've all seen the same thing. So it does feel like a safe space.
Yeah. And I have actually thought of that before as well. Like if, let's say, 5% of the small town you live in had encountered something crazy, that's a really small minority.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely that anyone in their immediate circle of friends and family would have experienced something similar. So therefore, they wouldn't bother sharing it because they would be told that they're mad. Little do they know that if you got together 5% of the town's population altogether, all of these people have shared the same experience or had unexplainable things happen. But because it's just small enough a percentage in their little worlds, they may as well be the only person in the world that has seen it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's the thing.
That's what the internet breaks down. And so I applaud you for coming on and sharing your story, because who knows, you may inspire
the opportunity. It's nice to talk about it. I haven't spoken about it ever in this depth. Not even revisited the pictures. So it's nice to share.
I'm glad. No, thank you so much. It was really interesting. And a little teaser. I've another guy I've interviewed on 3 separate interviews that I've yet to release. There is a dogman encounter in one of those. So I don't know when that's going to release, but just keep an eye out. And and I'm interested if anyone else has had experience. I mean, there's a million things, Elle. I don't know if you've heard of the Mothman. There's no limits. Yeah.
There's not.
There's no limits anymore. Everything exists. I'm at the point where I think maybe vampires might. Yeah. What? Who?
They might. You never know.
Oh, Elle, thank you so much again. You enjoy the rest of your day, and Yeah, thank you so much. That was an awesome story.
Thank you.
And we'll chat soon, eh?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day or night.
I will.
Thanks.